Good afternoon once again, and I've made this mistake in like 6 videos. Sorry, you might be watching this in the night. If you're hearing good afternoon at night, forgive me. Good day to you wherever you are. Today's video I'll be teaching us how to use complex profiles. This is in response to a request made on the comment section by one of us not so long ago. I apologize I hadn't done this up till now. It's been very hectic over here, but I do hope it's not very late. Let me say very early, if you are recommended to this channel, then what I do here basically is listen to you guys. If there's anything you find very difficult to do on Archicad and you want to learn how to get it done, reach out to me. If it's possible with Archicad, I know how to do it. That's on one side. On the other side, if you've yet to subscribe to this channel, please do so. I am really appreciative of those who've been sharing my content in recent times. You guys don't know how grateful I am for that. At least it makes a lot of sense to me that what I'm doing is appreciated by many. So let's just kick off directly into complex profiles. One might be wondering why I've just been orbiting around this building since. Well, I've been trying to figure out where I would be utilizing that tool. So I think I'll begin from the commonest place where complex profile is used in Archicad. Alright, so we can observe the concrete fascia we have in this house. It has a very wonderful shape. A very unique shape where we can see that if you observe it round, for now please ignore this portion of the roof that is elevated above the rest. Just let's try and focus on these that are consistent in the same level. You can observe that if you look at the roof properly, this portion is elevated, this portion is elevated, this as well. I'll do a different video hopefully later today, so I think both of them could be uploaded around the same time, where I show how you can get a portion of your roof to go up like this. Alright, so you can see that this entire shape is like a sweep. If you are used to Blender, Rhino, Revit, Maya, SketchUp, some other softwares, you would know that transferring one cross section across a profile basically across a specific path or direction is called sweeping. Well, Archicad doesn't call it sweeping. In Archicad, it's the complex profile tool. So let's go there immediately into what that tool is. To access the complex profile tool, you are going to come to your options right here. Then you click on complex profile here and profile manager. If you are not using Archicad version 26, it might be different, but I know that 24 and above it retain this consistency in the UI. If you are using 26, and by the way, for those who complained I'm speaking fast, I'm intentionally slower today. I hope that you guys can hear me better now. Another place where you could see this from is still to go to elements attributes, and I'm sorry, not there. Sometimes I forget. It's usually from the design area. That's if you're not using Archicad 26. From design option here, you could scroll down. It's usually somewhere around here. But if you're using Archicad 24, 25, 26, 27, and the newly released 28, for those who are not aware, Archicad 28 is out for testing. So if you're one of those who wants to get a sneak peek at the early features and you're paying for Archicad already, sign into graphisoft.com and you should be able to download it, install on your PC, and then you can try it out. That said, let's move in. So from here to the complex profiles, and you open the profile manager. Now on the profile manager, you see a lot of preset profiles that come with Archicad. I'm just going to change this from this folder view to the list view where I can see all of them. Each of these are profiles, and I've been saying profile. Well, let me quickly show what a profile does. I think it's just like the best way to make this tool easy for us to understand. Then I could come back to how you create a profile. So say I want to create a tunnel here. I could just edit. I'm already creating a profile again. Well, it's interesting. All right, so I could come define a cross section of the tunnel. In this case, I'm just going to do it a square tunnel. It's going to have a height. I want it to be something that people could crawl on but not stand on. So the height could be about 1.5 meters. The width probably supports 2 people. No one should ask me why I'm thinking of a tunnel that 2 people can crawl in. The way my imagination works these days, even I can't explain some things that I think. 100. Then I'm also going to do the thickness of 100 at the top, so I'm going to have 1.6 as the total height. That's 1.5 the initial height plus the 100 of the thickness, and in this place I'm going to do 1.7. That's 100 here, 100 here, and 1.5 in between, and I'm just going to close up the profile. Then these were drawn with lines, by the way. You could draw this to any shape you like. You can see that as I will exemplify later. And then you fill it up. If you don't know how the magic wand tool is used, you hold the space bar. You should have seen it on the screen when I did it, by the way, but you hold the space bar, move into a closed region, and then you left click on it. Make sure that the tool that you want to use the magic wand with is active. In this case, I'm using it with the fill tool. And then you can specify material. In this case, I'm just going to specify reinforced concrete. So if I search for reinforced concrete, I'm going to go with the prefabricated option, and then I'm using it with walls, and now I can press save, and I'm going to call this tunnel and say okay. So you always have to specify a name to it. All right, so I hadn't created anything on the plan yet, so I don't think I'll be seeing it. And for those of you who might have observed, I do a lot of my drawings on the plan view. I just tend to use the 3D primarily for viewing. So I'm going to select this wall I've created, change the structure to complex profile. Then amongst the complex profile, choose the profile that I want, in this case tunnel, and we can see what's going on here. You can see the 2 walls of the tunnel, and once I check in the 3D section, I get something like this. Well, excuse me briefly. Okay, I was about to say before I was mildly interrupted, this is not the only way you could do this. A lot of us already know that you could actually set up 2 small walls and place a slab on top. Well, in that regard, you are aware that doing this is slightly faster, but that's not just the only advantage to it. An extra benefit you could get to using complex profile, if I were to reshape this in very weird and strange ways. Well, here's what happens on the 3D, as you can already see on the plan. The profile takes that exact shape, and so now I have a tunnel that is basically free form. Any form I give to these walls I have here, the profile takes on that form. In fact, if I choose to make them curvilinear, that's a lot of English. I don't know who invented that English, but whoever it was, he didn't like me. If I choose to do it something like this, I still end up with something like this at the end of the day, and a lot of us can already have lots of ideas on where this can be quite useful. Another place where you could see the complex profile used is drawing of curves. I don't know if there's any other term for it. I've seen certain people looking at me with strange eyes when I try to describe curves to them, so I think I'll just describe it graphically. But you find it typically between roads and sidewalks, or between walking paths and grassy areas. So I'm just going to go into this site area that I have here. So if you saw on the 3D, there is like this grass surrounding the building, and then this area. Please keep in mind, this project was just created for this video. If you are doing a real life project for someone, please, unless he requests for you to, and he needs to justify why he will make such a request, don't go placing grass directly in front of the building without access for vehicles and all the rest. That said, alright, so I want to create curves. So I'm just going to come over here and click on the plus button and say new. It will first of all attempt to duplicate an existing profile, which is a tunnel I just created. I'm like, no, I want a completely new one, and I can give it a name, and this time I'm going to name it curb. Please, if that pronunciation doesn't work well with you, pronounce it how you see fit. We are not here to debate on how well English is spoken on this channel. Our purpose here is to gain knowledge on how complex profile is used. At least that's our purpose here today. and by default it creates a block. You can delete this and create what you want. All right, so for the curb I'm going to be creating, is going to have a lower portion width. By the way, this is just I'm going to work without dimensions first. The shape of curbs is typically like this is typically the profile of curbs. So I'm going to do mine to have width of here to here to be 4 inches or 100 millimeters. Because of I'm in Nigeria and I'm not in the US, I'm using millimeters. The overall height in this direction is going to be 200 millimeters. The width at the top there is going to be 50 millimeters. Then I'm just going to find the center of this. I click on Q to get a guide point from there, you see, and it's now giving me a horizontal guideline in any direction I go. I can stick there. I already have one at all the other points that I had drawn on, by the way, so in case you are usually confused by that, they are quite helpful. And then I can come over here and close up the shape. So now I'm going to take this portion out. That was just at least a guide for me. It can also be helpful in the case of concrete fascias. I think later in the video I'm going to make a concrete fascia. So I'm going to come over here in the fill tool and I'm going to hold the space bar and click here, and I have this region filled. Then I'm going to specify what material it is to be made of. This time I'm going to use concrete, but not like reinforced or structural concrete, because it's not a load bearing material. And I'm still going to use it with walls. I'm going to explain later on what it means using with wall, beam, column, railing, or library parts, etc. And hopefully I should be able to exemplify. My target for this video is for it to be under 25 minutes. If I check my time and I see that I'm approaching that duration, I will have to make a part 2. I hope you guys can bear with me on that. I typically don't like watching long videos, and I don't like posting long videos as well. Okay, so I'm going to save as curb. Then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to draw a wall around this entire area. That's the boundary between the grass and the paved area. And then I am going to, or what I intended to use here was stamped concrete, so you could see it as pavement, you could see it as concrete, whatever works better for you. And I'm going to change the structure to complex profile, then change this to curb, and then I can see a profile of that curb. Now keep in mind, sometimes when you're done creating complex profiles, you could see a lot of weird stuff. Like for example, in this case, I honestly would have preferred for this area with the chamfer to be on the inside and not on the outside, or would I say outside the grass, inside the paved area, depending on how best you want to describe it. So right now I kind of have what I want, but it's flipped. There are two options for me. Option 1, I could go onto the plan here and click on P, and it flips it in the other direction, which we can see shown here. You can see now it's displaying exactly as I wanted. But this option is not always open, because the complex profile is not only used on walls. Keep in mind that P that I press to flip applies only when I am drawing with walls. It applies also to doors, it applies to railings as well. But for stairs, for beams, for columns and the rest, no, that does absolutely nothing. So if you want to be able to make such changes, then what you need to do is, I'm going to undo by the way, what you need to do is go back to the profile manager, select that profile and flip it over here. In this case, I think I press Ctrl M. Oh, Ctrl M doesn't work when I'm recording with Camtasia. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Ctrl Shift M. It will create a copy, but that means I also have to delete the original afterwards, which you can see me doing already. I'm taking away that line, then now I could bring this over here. So now that I've done this, once I press save, it will automatically update the curb profile, and when we check it out on the 3D, we can see it doesn't look like, okay, why I wanted to say it doesn't look like anything changed is because I didn't check the changes on plan before coming here, and you remember before I had gone to the plan, I undid. Is undo the word? Well, you never know. Alright, so this is an example of using the complex profile. Another example would be with columns. Let's say I wanted to do a column with floating. Now what people know as floating, and by the way, let me subdivide this column. I'm going to go in here. This is where I can see the different categories. So I'm going to enter the segments, come to the structure. I'm going to remove 200 from this, so I'll change this to 6.4 meters, and then I'm going to add this twice. To these two that I've added, I'm going to make their height 100, then I'm going to reduce their width to like 300. I'm assuming that's exactly what it is for this guy. Yeah, then this particular one I would come and give it the floating I described earlier, but for now I would say okay. Observe the changes it made to the column. We just have a smaller white portion here. So this gray area is what I want to edit. I'm going to create a new complex profile again, and this time I'm going to say new. And by the way, the radius of the circle, or the radius of the column, was 150 mm, so the entire diameter was 300 mm, so I'm going to keep that in mind, 150. And you might know it with different terms, but where I learned about it, it was called floating, and that is this small grooves you find on classical. I think 25 mm will work better. That seemed too much for a radius. I think I would change that 12.5, so that would get 25 as the overall diameter. So I'm going to take away this portion, and then I'm just going to like duplicate this. I'm going to use the rotation method. I'm going to change the angles to like 10 degrees, or let's go with 20. And yes, I want it to go around this circle, and now we have something like this. So I could just trim off these unwanted areas. Oh boy, I was about to say all right. Okay, so now I'm going to fill this with reinforced concrete, and this time I think I'll also go with a prefabricated method, because doing something like this in situ or on site can be really annoying. Then I'm not saving with wall this time, I'm saving it with column, and I'm going to deactivate the wall, and then I'm going to press save. I didn't give it a name earlier, so let me change that to column with floating. All right, and then I say okay, and it's still saved. If I come back here, one might say, bro, nothing happened. Well, that's because the column doesn't yet know that it's supposed to respond to this profile. So once I click here, I can go and click on this, then change it to complex profile, that's the structure, and then choose column with floating as the profile that I want. And I'm going to change the color. I'm going to go with a glossy white, so at least the difference is going to be obvious. All right, so we can observe what's going on this column right now. Okay, please keep in mind that something like this is just for an explanatory purpose only. If I was to do a real life project, I won't leave it this way. I'm actually going to use very precise measurements and very precise angles and all of that to ensure that it comes out properly. This is close to what I would do for a real life project, but not exact. Okay, so now that I've done this, let me show the use of the complex profile with rail. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and change this to 100 mm. I'm going to 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 change this to 100 I'm going to look for an example. Before I even find an example, let's open the railing tool. It's one of the not so used tools on Archicad. Excuse me briefly. Okay, for those who might notice, I know not everyone would even notice each time I will say excuse me briefly, but I usually pause the recording to attend to something. Alright, so I was talking about the railing tool. On the railing tool, there are certain places where we realize that you could have specific profiles. You can see these shapes here. This can be for the top rail. So let's say I have like this rail. Okay, see this very rail. I don't even know why the color is what it is, but let's come here. Okay, it's because of the material it's made of. For now I'm going to eventually ignore that material, but let's say I want the shape of the rail to be something like this. That's the top rail, this guy. Observe that the shape has changed. If I switch this to a white model, it becomes much more obvious. I could also adjust the hardware acceleration options so that it just allows the shapes of the profile become a bit more conspicuous. English can be hard. Alright, so if I wanted a custom shape, there are cases where you have to do things to specific, like I'm going to just quickly show a would I call it a work I did recently. Now almost everything done here was done specifically. The person wanted exactly these kinds of balusters in the rail. He wanted this double golden line. He wanted, you understand, and to create some of these kind of things, or even this fascia you are seeing under here, some of these things require complex profile. Your creativity with that tool can help determine what you can do on Archicad and what you cannot do on Archicad. It's 22 minutes already since I began, and I can tell already that this video needs to have a part 2. So I'm just going to add one thing. I could create a new profile. I think I should just do that. New again, and this time new again, and we'll call it new top rail. Keep in mind you are free to name it anything that you like. And for this new top rail, of course, this is going to go away. I don't even care about the shape in this scenario. I just want to show you that anything is possible. I don't know why I probably didn't think about this rubbish I drew here, but yeah, some days it's just in my head to just, you know, draw away first, think later. Alright, so I'm going to move this over here, then I'm going to rescale it. It seems quite too wide. I'm seeing 698 here, so I could drop it so it's like 150 on each side. It's gonna be really big at the end of the day. I don't care so much about the color yet, so I'm going to save it with the railing, as you can see me do here, and then I'm going to say save, and we have this. So once I come over plan, that railing tool should be over here. Alright, so if I come here, I could change this to a profiled rail, and then I choose this new top rail. It's gonna look very weird. That's not so much what I care about right now. What I care about is the fact that no matter what it is you want to do, you know how to do it. So I'm not sure why it's transparent. I think it's because of this membranous material that's used here. If I change it to something like this, it's a guess, but yeah, that was due to, it was due to the material. We get something like this. Please keep in mind, this is not all there is to complex profile. Watch the part 2. Alright, so if you've not subscribed yet and you are gaining value from this channel, it doesn't cost you anything. Just click on the button, and anytime I create a new video like this, you are going to be notified. If you have anything that's stressing you out on Archicad, something you want to learn how to do and yet you are not able to do it, and you feel it would be best if someone just shows you how to go about it, say it in the comments. You're also free to join the WhatsApp group in the link that I'll be attaching to this video. You're going to see the link in the description. On that group, different individuals get to meet me directly and communicate, and there are things that I don't even have to do whole videos for. There are things I could just send you like a 2-minute voice note, and you just get something like that done. Keep in mind that videos like this, aside from the time taken to record them, still has to go through a bit of editing, then it still has to go through some time on YouTube before it's uploaded. And if you're on the group, you could just get feedback immediately without a waste of time. If you watched up till this point, anyone who has been watching to the end of my videos would have noticed by now that I like to give a bit of a what do I call it, I like to give us just something to hold on to at the end that probably those who didn't watch to the end could enjoy. So if you watch up to this point, let me add one thing about the complex profile that I might not be adding in the next video, and that's the fact that you can control colors with it. So I'm going to use this one on the roof here for an example. If I wanted to insert a ceiling light line on this profile, by the way, to always know the name of a profile, you could always click on an element made with that profile and you can see it. So it's named fascia, as we can see here, not you. It's a complex profile structure and it's named fascia. What I'm going to do is I'm going to edit that profile. I'm going to come over here, search for fascia and press okay, it's just opened it up directly. So I'm going to add something to it. I mentioned lights, so I'm going to set for this particular field that I selected to override the material to lamp, and then I'm going to say okay to that, and I'm going to save. And once I open this on 3D, we are going to observe that a line has been added. While it will tend to appear white here, if I were to do a quick rendering, or let's check the settings. I said quick render, and I don't want this video to get much longer than it already is. Photo rendering settings. And by the way, if you want to learn how to render on Archicad, it's not the best place to do rendering. I have said that on the group before to someone who requested, but at least it's not so horrible. The only problem is Archicad is not optimized to handle really heavy models. By the way, please be taking note of what I'm doing while I'm talking about Archicad and rendering. I'm also going to increase the resolution of this to like complete HD, that's 1920 by 1080, and I'm going to keep this closed, and yeah, just render. I think I forgot the lights. I'm like 70% sure I forgot the lights right now. Well, I'm grateful for the fact that I have a real fast PC, so it should be able to help me figure that out. From what I can see, it doesn't look like I forgot what. Okay, I didn't forget. I can already see them glowing. And was this a night render I had set? Indoor. Oh, I set it to be indoor. The environment is going to feel a bit weird. Well, I could always cancel the rendering. Should I or should I not? Alright, rendering cancelled. I didn't even, probably because I was talking. I need outdoor daylight fast. Alright, so I guess the size was retained. I want the light to be on based on the settings. Then I can close this, don't save this, and render again. Hopefully it shouldn't even take as long as the first one did. Archicad does what is known as procedural rendering, and from what I can see, it didn't even take effects. I guess eventually I'll figure out why, but you had observed on the interior one then that we had a line in here that was glowing earlier. You could always rewind the video to verify. but that's just it. The fact that you could always create different colors for different parts of your complex profile. Enough of this very long video. See you in the next one. Bye.